What's up, YouTube? So, I don't even know, for the last few months I've been pretty much working a lot on so many different games, and for whatever reason I completely forgot to throw this game onto the Game Crafter. Now, the Dungeon Arena game is a game that a lot of people know. It's definitely seen a lot of different faces and hands, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on this game, and essentially what I did was I put all the cards together in this giant epic loot collection, and essentially what you're getting in this is every single card. Now, a lot of people have bought the blue box, the green box, a lot of the booster packs and stuff like that. Well, this one comes with every single card that you will need for this game. Honestly, it comes with every single card in the game. And there's a whole bunch of different stuff within the Dungeon Arena universe here now. A lot of stuff has been updated, and some new mechanics have been introduced, and new card types, and I guess I'll kind of go through some of this with you guys. There's this new mechanic now, it's called rifting. Now, as most of you guys know, when you take a card, or if you take damage to your deck, alright, because your life is your deck in this game, so when you start discarding from the top of your deck, when you discard a card that has the Rift ability, this effect will immediately take place. So if I take this card and I place it into my discard pile, it says Rift, which means I put Acidic Spider immediately into play. So this one immediately just gets thrown into play, which is awesome. It's kind of like a balance, like, oh, well, I may have taken some damage to my deck, but essentially, at least I still have somewhat of a comeback, and somehow it balances out to be a much smoother game. Rifting is such a great mechanic in this game. There's a few different kinds of rifts. I've added some new cards with this ability called banish. So essentially, when you banish something, it doesn't go into your discard pile. It's removed from the game completely. So the Banished Brothers, they're pretty good at banishing cards, as you would imagine. Of course, we've got new epic monsters, more Rift creatures, new epic creatures for the game, a lot of more Rift. Let's see. I had a lot more Rift. A new mechanic, new mechanic and new card is basic creature. Now, they're not new, but basic creatures are basic creatures. When you play them, essentially all they have is just their attack and their defense. They don't really have abilities down here. Now, these abilities down here for basic creatures don't really pertain to what they do. They don't really do anything unless there's some kind of a class. It's not like a specific ability, like, oh, well, while this guy's out in play, you can draw additional cards, or it does, buffs everybody else up. It takes work to activate these kind of creatures. And now basic creatures, some of them have this new mechanic called level up. Now essentially what that means is once this dancing ant is in play for one full turn, on my next turn I can actually level up the dancing ant to frenzy ant. And now you literally just, all you do is you discard the dancing ant and you place this frenzy ant into play. Kind of a replacing thing. And now he's, instead of a 2/2, now he's a 5/5, so obviously he's buffed up now. But he also gains new abilities, and this new ability called Rampage, which Rampage, think of it kind of like Trample from Magic the Gathering. Essentially all it does is if you're attacking something with maybe 2 defense, your rival will receive 3 damage to their life. So that's pretty awesome. Plus, while in play, all other ally creatures gain +2 attack. So he's buffing everybody else up, and he's doing Rampage, which is pretty amazing. Let's see, a lot more Rift. Rift. There's that Banish ability. So with basic creatures, the Banish ability means right now all he is a 2/2. Alright? But if I banish this card during my turn, I can heal 2 life and destroy 1 rival elite creature. So essentially what I'm doing is, alright, well, I can't attack during this turn, so I can, instead of attacking, since I can't, because I'm choosing, because everything else is too strong for this creature, I could banish this one to at least heal some stuff and maybe destroy one of their elite creatures, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of different Rift. Now, All right, so there's new kinds of, I guess, types of creatures. Now you have these bone creatures, and they all have respawn, and some of them have, different new abilities or new mechanics to this game. But for their respawn, this is an awesome one. So essentially, you can play these cards from your discard pile. So it's kind of like, oh, I can either play them from my hand, or I can play them from my discard pile. As long as they're in my discard pile, I can play them, which is pretty awesome. You can get this guy back into play, no problem. Quick Strike allows him to attack first. Alright, so essentially, normally what would happen is if I was versing another Bone Dragon here, my 4 and 5, well, maybe not another Bone Dragon, Dancing Dragon, or Frenzy Ant. If I was facing Frenzy Ants, normally they would, Frenzy Ant would kill Bone Dragon because his 5 attack beats this, and that was a poor example. But essentially what you do is, instead of attacking simultaneously, Bone Dragon would attack first, if that makes sense. Hopefully it did. But all these bone creatures have respawn, which is pretty cool, and then they also have additional abilities. So those are the bone. You have Crystallize. Crystallize, pretty cool. So essentially what this does is it makes your... you're essentially giving... Because when you... I know this is kind of jumbled up. So when you play a card with Crystallize, you choose a creature, and that creature essentially has summoning sickness. Well, anytime the rival... I'm sorry, this is kind of confusing. But anytime the rival plays a card, they're crystallized, which essentially means they have summoning sickness, so they can't attack until the next turn. So essentially these guys are like, I don't know, like walking ice cubes, or walking things that do freeze. So while this is in play, anytime the rival plays a creature, they'll have summoning sickness, because normally you can attack right away, but not while maybe the rival has something with Crystallize in it. So it's like a great defensive maneuver here. I think I had another one. There's another one called Mutate as well, which are pretty cool. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. And then we got creatures with Mutate, which is essentially just buffing people up. So right here it says Mutate 2. So if I wanted to mutate a creature with 2 or less, or with a cost of 2 or less gold, like this Battle Brawler, I can do that. And essentially, this is a 3/4 right now, but if I wanted to mutate that, I throw this card underneath that Brawler, and I would add this attack and this defense to that Brawler, essentially making him more powerful. Now, it has to be a 2 or lower. And of course, I can play this as a normal creature. I don't have to mutate anything, but this gives me the option to. And then there's also different kinds of mutates, like this one's a Mutate 3. And this one I would, I can attach this to a gold cost of 3, 2, or 1. So hopefully that makes sense. Essentially, you're giving them like items to use to buff up. But yeah, Mutate's pretty cool. You're mutating a creature into something much stronger. I really like these mutants. They've definitely... My buddy has a crazy mutant deck, which is just nuts. Which is pretty cool. And there's all sorts of new abilities. And of course, if you get the epic loot, you would get this awesome reference card that will explain every single one of these things that I'm slowly spitting out and making no sense to stuff. But yeah, so essentially there's the Quick Strike. Provoke is kind of like Taunt in Hearthstone or whatever that game's called. So essentially you have to attack the creature with Provoke before you can attack any of the other creatures. Rampage we already went through. Critical, you just bypass all the creatures that are in play and hit the rival's life directly, which is pretty cool. And then of course the other side, it talks about the classes with the Crystallize, the Respawn. Then you've got the Banish. I think this one has Mutate here. Talks about the Banish, the Level Up, and then Rifting here. So that's all the cool bracket abilities and everything you'll need to know for this really crazy awesome game. And of course, if you get the Epic Loot Collection, you'll be getting all 600 plus new cards. I think it's like a total of 640 cards or something like that, which is just bananas. You'll get 6 gold cards, so that's definitely more than enough that you'll need for at least 2 players. And my buddy has created, I think, 4 or 5 different decks. So he's got like a crazy slime deck. He's got a mutate deck. I think he's mixed in I don't know. He's got some really great like creative ability to make awesome decks. And of course, every one of those 600 cards are completely unique. There are no duplicates of any of these cards, which is really cool. So essentially, you don't need any duplicates to anything for this game. You can go up to 3, and your decks would be 50 card decks. And in your side deck, you would have at least 10 cards in your side deck. And then those cards would include the legendary creatures, the level up creatures. Those level up cards don't go in your hand. Or I'm sorry, your deck, but they go in your side deck. And then, shrines. Shrines are a new type of card, which is pretty cool. I'll try to explain this. Hopefully this makes sense to you guys. But here, you see how it's got a cost, and it's no longer a gold coin. So essentially what I need to do is, if I have 2 cards into play, 2 creature cards in play, I can discard those 2 cards, I flip them upside down, and I can place this shrine into play. Alright? And I will place those underneath this shrine. And they now become offerings. But you have to remove them from the game and place them underneath this shrine to make that work. So anytime during my turn or anytime during play, I can remove one of the offerings, spend one of those offerings, and any offering gets placed directly into the discard pile, and this effect will take place. So I can negate the effects of any one rival spell. So maybe a spell's got me to the point where I can't attack this turn. Well, I can spend one of these offerings to remove that spell, which is pretty good. Other offerings would include, let's see, choose one ally creature to attack again during your turn. So maybe you had an ally creature. Maybe there are no rival creatures out, and you had an ally creature do, I don't know, 5 damage to the rival's life. Well, I could spend one or even both of my offerings on the exact same turn, and once all the offerings are spent, the shrine is then destroyed. But I mean, I can get off possibly 3 attacks this turn, doing 15 direct damage to the rival's life. So these shrines are definitely crazy. There's nothing that can do direct damage to shrines. They just stay into play. I think there might be 1 or 2 different like cards that can remove shrines, but you can't directly attack a shrine. There's no attacks or anything that can happen to them. But some of the shrines, of course, like this one right here, you need to spend 3 cards to become offerings to this Shrine of Primeval. So there's different, different values to make these shrines work, but it's like kind of like a push-pull. I mean, if I spend 3 here, essentially I'll have 3 offerings. So there's a bunch of different stuff you can do with these shrines, which are really cool. But these shrines would go into your side deck as well. And I think those are the biggest differences here. Of course, in this, you'll be getting brand new spells to the game. You'll be getting new traps, and I tried to make the traps as fun and nostalgic as I possibly could to a bunch of different RPGs and pixelated games from our past. Like the card unlock, which is the Game Gin, or if you guys are familiar of the Game Genie from back in the day. And of course, I mean, we've got these cool cards that also have Rift, and this Rift card, place this card into your hand. So I mean, you get it back. You may have lost a life, but this goes right into your hand, which is pretty awesome. So plenty of different cards and stuff like that to kind of tinker with. Lots of different unique ways of playing this game at this point. It's a totally fun game, and I figured, you know what, I've been having so much fun lately with playing it, I will let you guys have just as much fun, and hopefully you guys do. So if you guys like this video or like this game, please support us here at the good old C&D Games, and hopefully I can get back into doing shoutouts very soon. But yeah, this is definitely a game that I totally enjoy. And if you guys are interested in this game, the link to this game will be in the description below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you have any questions, comments about the game, go ahead, just ask me in the comments below. In the game, again, you'll be getting the reference card, but you can download the rules and all that fun stuff from the GameCrafter website. I don't want to include it in the whole bundle just because it'll make the game more expensive. But right now, for 600 plus cards, like I said, it's about 640. The game is $60, but that's a ton of cards. Ton of cards. So essentially, you're paying $10 for 100 cards. Actually, less than $10 for every 100 cards. Hopefully that weighs it out and you guys have a better idea that way. But thanks for watching, everybody, and hopefully you enjoyed this video and hopefully you enjoy this game. Alright, thanks.